Yeah, now he closed the door.
So we're going to present our organ extension and organ. And before that, maybe I just talk a little bit about organ in general, so that everybody understands what. I mean, this is a huge topic, and I invite everybody to check out our website, Organon, where we explain a lot of contemporary and general organ techniques. And I think it's important to understand that this instrument here is, let's say, a digital copy of a real pipe organ. So all the sounds that we hear in this instrument are samples of original pipes. And I think unlike piano, that has a very, there are many different parameters you have to take into account. Organ is a little bit easier because the way of sound production for an organ, for the original instrument, is already very mechanical. So the way it works is you press a key, and then there's a connection between the key and the actual pipe, and you press the key, and then a valve opens underneath the pipe, and air flows into the pipe to produce the sound. So when you, especially when you have a large organ, you sit here and then there's a very long connection until the pipe, which is quite far away. And so this implies that you are not like a violin player or a singer where you're very close to the sound, to the way you produce sound, or to the sound production itself. But the sound production happens quite far away from you. So you don't have this very intimate control over sound that you have on other instruments, also on the piano, for instance. But it's always translated through a complex mechanical structure. And I think because of this reason, or because of this is also one of the reasons why it's, I guess, easier to reproduce an organ digitally than any other instrument, because the organ, the original, is already quite digital, so to speak. So this is a replica, so to speak, of a mechanical organ. But what you can't do is, of course, because it's digital, you can't press any keys half or something else. So you press the key and the sound is there. So it's like very digital in this sense. Okay, we have here also, as in a mechanical organ, we have pedals. Now they have a set of stops that is dedicated only to the pedals. So what you've heard here in the orange stuff. So different types of pipes are imitated. Then you have one manual that is the main manual, that is the lower manual. That has also a specific set of stops, and then the second manual that has a different set of stops as well. So we have this, and this is actually really like a replica of any classical organ. What you can realize when you look at historical organs is that you see that each country has a different organ tradition, and also each period in the history of music developed different preferences in tunings. We were talking about this widely, and one specific period was very much of interest for us, and this was the period between, let's say, 1600 and 1750 or something like this, where the prevalent tuning system for organs was mean tone temperament. And in mean tone temperament, I can show you, we talked about this yesterday already. We have these pure major thirds. and this has this fantastic advantage, this system that we can really hear this beautiful pure major thirds. But the disadvantage is, as if you want to expand your tonal range, so to speak, you get you find limitations quite fast, because if you, for instance, want to play or want to reuse, so to speak, the G sharp key as an A flat, you get this much too high major third. And of course, already in the 16th and 17th century, people realized that there's a problem with this, or they also realized that there is a solution, and the solution was to split the black keys into two halves, so that you have one key for A flat and another key for a G sharp. So that in this way you can split the black keys into two hearts, and then get, if you stop there, 17 steps per octave, or if you also insert a step between the E and the F and the B and the C, you get 19 steps per octave. So instruments like this have been built, and this was kind of the starting point for our project, that we tried to kind of recreate these possibilities, not mechanically, but digitally, and that's the prototype that you can see and hear up here, that we have. So it's a little bit out of tune, but it doesn't matter. But the idea is clear, that we have now here an option of it's almost a quarter to like 40 cents different, so that you, when you play, you can decide. Yeah, sorry, it's unfortunately not perfectly in tune. That's fine. Yeah. Sorry, there's something. Yeah, but you get the idea, no? That somehow we tried to recreate these 17th, 16th century organs with this split keyboard, and we can now use this to perform the literature from this period of time, but it also opens up options for new compositions that use this tuning system. So maybe you can now pick up and talk a little bit about the technical aspect of.
Sure. I mean, maybe really briefly, I'll just tell you how we did the prototype and what it's like made out of, and how we kind of work through this, and I'll go over our new and improved version that is currently in progress, and then maybe we'll go over briefly some software things, and then we'll move on to the part where we deal with questions and I think we have a piece that can be read. So basically we needed to solve this problem that we need to put something on the keyboard, and we needed to be able to have this item that it supported itself, that it was able to have keys be depressed without depressing other keys, and then this could then somehow, all the information could then be sent to what we have here is a Raspberry Pi, so that information could be processed and then it could retune the keys. So it sounds very simple, but there's a lot of things that come up, and so what we did for this version, we just used a simple piece of wood with some screws at the end that can expand so that it can tighten and sit in place. And for the keys, to make it easy for like debugging and understanding how things work, we actually used just keyboard buttons. So there's basically a keyboard button glued inside a like 3D printed object that is basically depressed when the person plays. And in order to get that information into the Raspberry Pi, there are wires that are actually soldered onto the ends of the button, and then these wires lead into a breadboard which routes all the information and sends it into the Raspberry Pi. And this is then connected via MIDI to the organ so that information can be exchanged. Of course, with this prototype, there were several issues with the physicality of it. Most importantly, that the buttons, while they function, because of the mechanic that you use to press them, it's not very much how like a performer actually presses a key. So we started to redesign the keys, and we went to a 3D printed version where the key mechanism is much more similar to what you would expect on a keyboard. The other problem is that while this piece of wood functions perfectly for the Viscount, for other keyboards it doesn't work because they're different sizes, they have different housings, there are different ways to attach it. So we also redesigned the bar to be a modular system. So these are all 3D printed bars that snap together, and it can basically be extended to whatever length you need. And then there's just end pieces that are partial octaves as needed to fit whatever keyboard you need, with also the same mechanism to attach. But because these are modular, the end pieces can be replaced with whatever, so that if somebody needs to design some other mechanism for attachment, like some kind of clip or anything, this could also be done. So I think, oh yeah, and then I mean we also began to develop our own PCB so that we don't need to use the breadboard because it's less stable for keeping the connections. So that's the next thing. And maybe I will pass it on to you to, if you want to get into some of this software, what we did and what we're going to do. Or if we maybe want to just jump into more questions.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the software is very straightforward. No? We'll use C6 for intercepting the message of the Viscount. So if the Viscount turns to stop, it turns on the buy. The first version of the software, as you mentioned, there is this weirdness with tuning.
Yep.
I think we never been pointed out because I mean we reviewed that thing for a couple of times and I have no clue. Sample rate is okay, the reading speed is okay, and everything. Because of that, now the updated version, we migrated all the stuff. But still, now in this version, I have a little bit of problems with the cycles of the processor, so the PI is struggling, but I mean the functionality stays the same. For the next steps, it's also actually sampling the mean tone temperament of the Viscount, because it's just to study more about it, because it's very well implemented and the modeling has these deviations in each stop from I mean aside there's deviations from the theoretical tunings into a more pragmatical tuning that it will happen in a physical model. But at the moment we are not very aware of how exactly it's working, and I think for the future it'll be cool to actually sort of build an algorithm to replicate this kind of behavior.
It's extremely out of tune, the Viscount. Even the same pitch and the same tuning system between two stops, there's sometimes a 10-cent difference or more. So.
Yeah, but this is why it sounds
so nice.
Kind of original, because if you have an organ with several thousand pipes, of course they're all out of tune. And the weather changes, the pipes will change. So this is kind of humanizing
yes, exactly.
the experience.
Yeah, and so that's something, we want to implement some kind of humanization to the retuning as well.
I mean, everything is just, now the next phase is improving and improving.
In terms now of like playing technique, it's basically, and this is the advantage, is there's no difference to playing any other organ. And there's also in the 16th, 17th century, they haven't developed a special playing technique for playing split keys, but usually also because the way they are designed, it's not so complicated. You don't need any special training to play split keys. You just need to, I think it's more that you understand coming from a classical keyboard where you only have 12 keys per when to switch between the upper and the lower rank of the keys. But this is more knowing it than really. You don't need to practice a new playing technique to perform this instrument.
Can you put it between the two manuals so you can do a kind of a Citino kind of thing where you have two split manuals? Does that work?
In the moment, just because we only have one, I mean, if you plug in 2 pies, I mean, theoretically, we could make that work.
So eventually the idea might be that one could
Yes.
turn a two manual setup into a kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
As far as I understand, this is basically almost like an individual manual. No?
Yeah.
It's like detached from all the functions. So when you can play them at the same time. So it's basically
Yeah, there is the limitation of the ports on the Raspberry Pi. I mean, it has like 17 available.
So we would need a second pie, basically.
For adding more manuals, I think instead of getting 16 million pies, I probably need to find a better solution to
Yeah,
that.
we need to.
But we are not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
in that regard. Martin, tell us more.
About what?
Oh my God, you did so much. Tell us what you did.
No, I mean, one other thing, considering, wanting to put it on 2 manuals, it's so many cables.
Yep.
It's already really hard to manage just those 15 keys. So we need a much, I don't know, I'm not quite sure what it's going to be, but we need to figure out how to actually run the cables in a way that it's manageable.
Yeah.
Because right now it's already covering up half the stop buttons and whatnot.
But theoretically, could they run inside the tube or something?
That's some.
Hopefully, maybe. That's something we started thinking about how that might be done. Again, the problem is since it's modular, you can actually take this apart, right?
Yeah.
Once
Yeah,
you
that's
take it
true.
apart for travel.
So they have like printed like the lines.
Yeah, maybe exactly.
Yeah.
So we gotta.
Yeah.
Lots of considerations that come up as you try to make things happen, and all of a sudden the complexity jumps
Yes.
by many factors.
Then the whole process.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when you come around later to look at the breadboard, it's a big mess of cables and LEDs and whatnot. That's why we started designing our own breadboard to kind of simplify this whole process. And this one, if you hold it upside down, there's a chance things fall out, and then you have hours of reworking it. And here it's just a fixed unit. So that will make our life much easier in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if you want, maybe it's easier to come and have a look and try it out.
And I think we also.
Yeah, we can do it afterwards. Or
Yeah.
So did your doesn't bite.
You can try the 2 different kinds of keys. Oh yeah, and those keys come out.
With this
As needed.
Yeah.
this setup, it's in.
Thanks for coming. See you.
So now you have to first select the color, and it works only on the second map. You can use it, but it won't be affected by this key. Something won't work.
The upper ones, the wires are broken.
is the thing that was interesting, that they input the right numbers, but they're not playing the right.
Because
it's just not correct.
because the pipes are sort of possibly have a special shifting from the actual tune.
I mean, I have no explanation for that, because you give the hertz that are needed, and then it plays something else.
Yeah.
That's a very mysterious thing.
It's the desk, I mean, we can keep moving the desk makes it.
Oh yeah, there's not fireflies
I'm trying to see how I don't step.
This is the E sharp, E flat, sorry. This is the E sharp. This is much better. I mean, it's not perfectly, but it's not so bad.
I thought first that you're using the
No, I really just ripped the buttons out of
You know a little bit how it works in the sharps and flats?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But what you, I mean, what's interesting, what you also get here already without, you so if you exchange, so to speak, always if you play the wrong black key, you always get a pure 7.
Exactly. So that's,
That's
Because this T sharp is so low that it's functions almost as a pure 7. And if you have all the split keys, you have much more pure 7.
and if you drop the fifth,
This one is without.
This is quite clean. Yeah. Always like justification of this. So that relationship. So you get close to a 7. I guess some of the constellations, if you have more split keys, then you could get some other harmonics, but not so accurate.
And I mean, we intend to make it that this is part of the next feature, is that these can actually be retuned very similar to the e-piano.
Yes.
So that someone could add keys, but maybe they want a different tuning, and maybe they even want to use the e-piano and then add keys.
Yeah.
So we want that flexibility. That's something very important to us, that people have.
I think this real-time feature that you have is, I mean, that's very nice.
Now we have this
bottom one.
Bottom one. This is like ideally about 40 cents. But you need to.
No, I just wanted to see what happens with these two.
I mean, they are perfectly tuned, but so you can. But this is of course the same. And I think this was theoretically we could add a second split key thing here, and we would have.
And then you could walk up and down this, yeah. So you can do the Enharmonic Interfaces, the original. That chord change from it. No one can play properly. In the big earthquake scene, this end around.
Yeah, and I mean this is now set. This is the inbuilt setting to a quarter comma meter temperament, but it also has this third comma meter temperament here. So if you then have all the keys split, you can get a closed cycle of fifth.
Yeah.
With a pure major or minus.
Right. And does it automatically, do these keys automatically then adjust to whatever is set here?
No, I think they have to
Not
be
yet,
tuned,
but in my original code, it is possible.
Yeah, so it would read, for example, whatever mapping is here, and then kind of extend it accordingly.
In the future, that is the hope, yes.
It's so funny that I never hear that properly. Even though it's melodically it sounds quite huge, but as soon as you have the triad, it's like, I don't hear it. Right? But do you really hear the upper note rising when you hear it like that? Melodically, yes, but chordally it's harder. Because the chords are so distant, this F sharp, right? And this is G flat. So it's there you kind of can hear it.
But there is some other color as well.
Yes.
These ones at the moment, right? Which
very close. I think.
this color is a bit,
This one?
yeah, a bit more
That's a different-
nasaled.
It sounds like a different sample. But that's the same sample.
I don't hear any difference in timbre.
Well, they're made from different samples, so there will be breaks. And when it changes samples, you hear the.
At least it's not intended to be different. But even on an organ,
Yeah.
the pipes are
Theoretically, there should be all different pipes.
It's just like psychologically.
No, but I think like we touched that in an organ, each key would be a separate pipe,
Yes.
Yeah.
and so each pipe is handmade, and of course
yes.
they will not sound
Yeah,
identical. And I guess this is also a feature of the organ that they
Yeah.
try
Maybe,
to simulate also the original instrument, that you don't want to make it too digital.
I mean, one thing that might be nice is, because I find it like when you use samples, and then you do the microtonally, so the same sample is there for 5 sounds or something. It might be nice to randomize the left to right position and a little bit of the filtering, so that every sound really does have its own.
Actually, the left-right positioning is different.
It is, it's changed from note to note?
Not from note to note, but within the Viscount, if you play, you can hear
Yeah.
how it switches, and our samples do the same thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
because if you build an organ, you always see the symmetrical structure of the organ, which means that like G sharp is to the left and adjacent G is to the right, because then you get the this
Yeah.
this spatialization within the instrument. Of course, in the space you wouldn't hear it. It just adds to the complexity of the sound without being
Sitting
like,
right here, you can hear it. Yeah.
yeah, and I think when you're in the space, it just adds to the richness of the sound. That is, it's never stable. It's always moving somehow. So if you play a fast line, a fast run, it actually bounces left, right into the space. And then if you have like several pipes or several ranks at the same time, it's extremely complex structure spatially that is happening. And I think this adds to the beauty of the organ sound. And it's so full of things that are moving at the same time.
It's part of the Baroque organ aesthetics to make that even more extreme.
Yeah.
So that there's this romantic continuity of color.
Yeah, and then you have the churches, which have this extremely complex acoustical situation, like with the reflections. And I think the idea is, at least that's how I see it, that you want to make up for this mechanical aspect of the instrument. You can't really do anything. You just press the key by creating this extremely complex acoustic situation, so that the sound gets full of life, even though it's a very mechanically produced sound.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the organ. So that's why it's always, when you put an organ in a concert hall, you always lose a lot of the quality of the instrument. No? Okay. You don't want to play. You're so shy.
We have one piece about
A little bit afraid to breathe.
No, you don't worry. You can break it. It's really not wrong.
I'm also shy.
Making it stick, I'm right. It's lovely. It's nice to have,
Yeah, I mean, as soon as, it's
In
progress.
In progress.
As soon as we'll work it, I think it's also something that we were talking about. Now, the advantage that we have the samples on the pipe is that you can even attach it to an instrument, to a real organ with a speaker, and you just add a few more keys. But this will, of course, mix with in the church with the real organ, so you can even take this to the church and attach it to a real organ, and then you can transform the organ with a very simple tool. No? Okay.
You want to read some?
Yeah, we can.
Maybe, should we read it first and then do the questions, or should we address the questions? I mean, I can maybe...
But it would also make sense for people to come.
Yes.
And look, because if they don't see the score, I think.
We'd like to invite you all up to watch. We have a sketch here that was sent by Soyeon Park. Unfortunately, is not in Graz at the moment. But we're going to read through the piece, so if you want to look and follow along on the score and also follow along on the playing.
It's also about like question. She has some questions and she sent stuff, and the idea is that we try to address
this question.
The question.
Yes. So first, I'd like to ask, these are a couple of questions also submitted by Soyeon Park. Number one, is there any consideration to take into account when asking the performer to play one black key along the split key over it? So at the same time, I'm guessing, right?
She means something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's possible. Actually, it just depends on like with any other key, it depends on how it is set in the chord, and so it's no problem.
Okay.
I mean, no general problem. There could be problems depending on how the chord is set. Yeah.
And then in comparison to the normal black keys, do you think there's any mechanical limitation or disadvantage, or advantage or disadvantage while using the split keys?
I mean, I think when you usually when you play very fast rounds or something like this, it's more uncomfortable to play the second row of keys. But on the other hand, if you play something very fast, maybe you can just use the lower ones, because anyway you won't hear it so precisely. But I think that's also what people did when they played the chords. They used more the proper ones. If they play very fast, they try to to be as fast as necessary. And then if it's very uncomfortable to use the upper rank of keys, I think then maybe you just use the lower one, because it will be good enough, I guess, for the sound quality. And of course, what you are not trained to do, but what you can, of course, practice is to play something like this, not like, with this it doesn't work anymore. You have this kind of, that's not a classical way of playing, so this is something you would have to practice, but I think there is no limitation, you can practice this.
Maybe there's some performer out there interested in developing a methodology and some kind of books for this.
But of course, there is no playing technique for this, because this step, so to speak, didn't exist in the 16th century. No?
Do you think the pedals could also get a split key system?
Theoretically,
I mean, I guess
it would
that's
be
a question
possible,
for us,
but there is no historic precedent for that.
It would be very difficult. Also, a lot of 3D printing material.
I mean, I think it's the same problem that you have here, and it would be possible. But of course, there's some kind of mental overload maybe if you have to also, But it depends on how it's set. I think it's possible. But nobody ever did this. It was not necessary.
And finally, what do you consider important when you choose the stops you want to use for a piece? Could you recommend some options for the coloration of my sketch? And maybe with that, we can move on to the sketch, and you can... I mean,
this is always the question, that's not specific to the enharmonics. It's always the question, how do you notate organ? No? What do you write in the score? Because, like, if you get the score like this, and now we have something like this, no? Of course, it's very different from a structure like this. But the notation is exactly the same, because she didn't indicate any color. So for me, there is these two options, or like three. Let's say three options. One is that you just leave it completely open to the organist to decide for herself or for himself. The other extreme is the way, for instance, Messiaen notated his piece, that he writes precisely the stops that he has at his organ, and then as an organist, even if you don't have the same stops, you can imagine what kind of sound you want, and then you kind of transpose it into your instrument. And then there is a third approach, like giving some more general indications. For instance, like you write principles, no? So that you know, okay, it's going to be this kind of so whether you have a 4-foot or not, it's not such a big difference, but you get the same quality, or you can just say flutes only, and you get this. So you can give let's say, some directions, but not too precise. And I think that's a general thing for any organ piece. It doesn't depend on what kind of thing she wants to use here. Sorry, what was the other?
The other one was, could you recommend some options for
Yeah.
coloration? So,
That's very difficult, no? Because also there's not. Okay, she wrote forte, so
okay,
so maybe you would put in something like this. So, oh, sorry, wrong. But could also also this would also be forte, no? If you have something like. So
what was the
It's-
difference between those two?
So the second were just reeds,
Okay.
the oboe, and the first were principals.
Okay.
There are so many options, so you can also have a forte that sounds more like it's more like something. It is more high frequencies, like. So that's really difficult, you know. If you maybe it's not difficult. It's maybe it's nice as an organist that you have the option to choose for yourself. You know? Okay, and now when we look like. Okay, and here she notates quarter tones,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't know what she means by that, no? Because, like, when you notate for this split key thing, you can just use sharps or flats, and then everything is very clear. So if she notates, for instance, the E flat here and the B flat, it's quite clear that it will be this note. If she wanted the split, the back one, she would have to notate D sharp and here A flat, then it would be something. Sorry, I have to think about it. So you don't need any signs for quarter tones or something. It's just sharp and flat completely defines which key you want to select. Okay. I guess it's also F sharp. Now, okay, she wants an A sharp here, so and here, so this indicates, and then G sharp is the lower one. And I guess this stays like that. And D flat is usually the upper one. So and then A flat is presumably the lower, the back one. And then we have B, A sharp, and G sharp, which is here. So you have a thing like this. Okay, so that's what you would have to do, just to figure out how, you know, where to place your finger in case of a split key. But that's, you just get used to this. It's not particular difficult. Yeah. I think that's the same structure here. I mean, I don't think this will be possible with the split keys, particularly not with this one. So I don't know how maybe we can find a way. I don't know, but not with this.
I mean, I think even with this
extension.
one, something like that wouldn't be possible. I mean, you could probably cluster, but even with this, like, I don't think.
You would just swipe it off the keyboard.
Yeah, or I mean, it's just not so. Yeah.
Okay, also, like, I mean, it won't be possible with this, but of course you can develop a fingering, but the difficulty is usually, you know, if you want to, you know, it's always different, no? Because usually the G sharp, or like here, the D sharp is usually in the back and the E flat is here, but the D sharp is lower than the but here with the F sharp, sorry, here maybe you have the G sharp in the front and the A sharp in the back, the A flat in the back, which means that the lower is in the front. So you have to really figure out the finger. You can't just do it like this, but you have to think about each. If you play, so it will be kind of a. It's possible to play this fast pisani, but you have to figure out.
It's a little bit contrary to it.
Yeah.
Is it possible to play really like a chord with this where this arrive at the same time? Or there will always be this small delay?
It's MIDI protocol, you're right. Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing because it's a MIDI protocol.
No, but also I think just because of the physicality of that,
I mean, in original instruments, it's exactly the same thing. No? It's just two keys and behind, so you can play perfectly together. And here maybe there's some digital delay or something like that makes it happen. And maybe it's also possible to work on this, but ideally it just functions exactly the same as any other key. And in historical instruments, it functions precisely the same. You just push the key, and then there is this mechanical connection to the pipe, and for the pipe it doesn't make any difference whether it's a flat or a sharp.
and I don't know which music exactly were they playing with, like historical instruments, where it was like that. But do you think that there was some connection between like did the way the instrument built influence the type of music that they were playing, also concerning to like the distance and so on?
I mean, I think that it was of course there's always like a relation between the instrument and the music that is written, but I think the most important factor that contributed to the development of these instruments is that they wanted to have these tuning systems implemented, that they wanted to hear pure major thirds. And then they found a way of representing the system on a keyboard. So I think this was the starting point. And then, I mean, that's why we try to emulate this, because for me, this solution is a very, very practical solution, because the playing technique is so similar to the standard playing technique. You don't need to learn a new instrument. And so I think it didn't influence very much, didn't have so much influence on the development of playing techniques, because it's so similar to the normal playing technique. And as I said, in the classical repertoire, you never play these two notes in a sequence, or very, very seldom. You always have to decide whether to play it. And also because, you know, if you have a movement like this, and the black key, the second black key is higher than the first one, the movement is even more similar, no? Because it's the same distance almost, no? If it would be like in the back, you would have to make a movement with your hand. But if it's higher, it's very comfortable. It's the same movement, right? So it's ergonomically very clever, the way the keyboards are built. And these keys are much too large and too high compared to the original instruments. No? They are really the same size, and they're just a little bit higher, and it's very comfortable actually. Okay, so again, she notates these quarter tones here, which is absolutely not necessary. So it just makes it more difficult to read. But basically, other than that, there is no difficulty in performing this. And then you have the second section where she writes piano. There's also the question, what color does she actually want? What sound does she want? But quarter note, which is not really playable.
And then crescendo.
And then crescendo, this is only possible if you have a swell. earlier instruments, it's like Renaissance instruments, they don't have it, but from Baroque era on you have swells, particularly also marked here. But so there are the other option. So one is that you just have a swell pedal that makes a very simple thing. It opens the box where the pipes are in, and then it's a very mechanical way of making it crescendo. So the pipes are usually boxed, and then you open the windows to the box, and the sound gets louder. This is one. And the other option is, of course, that you gradually sorry, wrong manual. So you gradually you add more and more stops. But I think this is maybe too short for this. But on the other hand, it's possible. Huh?
D chord, then should be replaying the T sharp here.
Maybe that's what she wanted to. So then it would be like a. But this notation is not clear. But I guess that's maybe what you want. But it's of course, you know, of course the D sharp is lower, so it's fine. Huh? And then you have the G sharp here, and the A flat we don't have it here anymore. Yeah, but I don't see any difficulty performing this piece. It's just these few notation things. That's it. So, any other questions or any?
Yeah. We were also wondering if maybe should try a demonstration of also Separ's piece, and maybe this would also be something where people can stand and watch, because we had invited Maria to participate as a performance practice of contemporary music student in this workshop, and she had to learn several pieces for e-piano as well as the Frescobaldi attachment, and so it might be interesting if you not only hear it, but that also you can kind of see. So maybe now would be a good time to switch to that, and maybe in the meantime people come up with more questions and have maybe more some ideas that they want to try.